King of England is saying this, and that is this. Modernism, by its unrelenting emphasis on the quantitative view of reality, limits and distorts the true nature of the real and our perception of it. So I think what you've got here is this really quite powerful just kind of critique of the modern materialist worldview as essentially impairing our vision of things that matter more. I mean, things which are not purely quantitative. And I think, one example of this, which I think is probably relevant, in terms of where things are heading with AI, especially, is the idea of like work and labor. So one of the things that Genon spoke about was how the nature of labor has become kind of automated, and there's no craft anymore. Like everything is kind of these mass systems, mass production. Most workers are just a very, very small part, and they are not themselves seeing the finished product. And usually the finished product is like, a microwave or something. It's not something that has any sort of spiritual significance. And so I think this idea of the reign of quantity and how that's impacted modern industrial life, which is obviously so focused on capitalist production, rather than on work as something which could potentially create something inspiring or something which improves quality of life in other ways than purely material. I think the kind of need to rediscover those other forms of work is obviously essential. So yeah, I think this idea that I think also the recognition that this, supposed reign of quantity is really so historically unique. I mean, arguably the modern West is the only society that's ever taken such a reductive approach, who's really kind of flattened the dimensions of human life in the way that we have. And so I think the King's critique of that, as voiced in that quote that I just read, is quite powerful in combating it potentially.
Yeah, it's remarkable that flattening of human life you talked about, and you can feel it in the built environment as we've talked about today. I was walking through Edinburgh the other day, and from the building I was in, I could see over to the St. Mary's Episcopal Cathedral, where there was lots of the beautiful Georgian architecture that led up to the building, and anyway, reaching for the skies, lots of beautiful ornamentation, a great portal with, the biblical stories chiseled into the stone. The people who were doing the laborers of that day would have not been given an exact plan and blueprint of which to follow. It's like they actually have some freedom in their work. They're able to add a flourish to it. And they also knew what it is that they were building. And it was a coming together of all sorts of different disciplines that were all towards that, I suppose, that universal truth that we talked about with the King. But on my walk past St. Mary's Episcopal Cathedral, then I started walking further into the south of the city, which remains beautiful in lots of different ways. Even the tenement buildings are built in this style. It nods to Gothic architecture in some way, albeit in a kind of cleaner way. But on the way, there were lots of modern buildings being built. And I saw the builders out, and they were, typical box buildings, insulation getting shoved in. And I couldn't help but notice the difference in the kind of working environment and obviously the finished product. And when you're in those places, if you go down to London, you walk through the city of London, you can be walking for almost, half a mile without even knowing where you are. You could be anywhere else because the way things have been built don't have any reference to people, place, culture, history, nothing. It's just, it could be modern day Shanghai. It could be the downtown of Dubai, just without the weather, and that's a real shame. There's obviously so much about this world which is having a deadening effect on us. I know you're coming up to a hard stop soon, so I want to touch briefly on AI to close. Generative AI is becoming the norm in the workplace. Proponents will say this is great for productivity. It's going to free us up to do more creative things. Personally, I think it deadens our soul and our creativity because of outsourcing the tasks.